What is your weirdest story about walking in on someone doing something dirty or being walked in on? When I lost my virginity to my high school sweetheart, I could hear my parents laughing in the room next door to whatever TV shows they were watching. It was so ironic, we both started cracking up laughing while we were doing it, and we heard my parents yell, "Are you laughing at us?" I wanted to ask the same thing. I'd boned my girlfriend at the time after a night of heavy drinking. We both fell asleep naked on top of her bed. Woke up to her mom putting my boxes on me and saying, "Quiet, he's got to get up in about 5 minutes. Go to the couch before he sees you." He literally came out as I closed my eyes on the couch. When we were all around 14 or 15 years old, I walked in the hay barn and caught my sister giving my friend a bejesus. I was about 18 or so, and I was hooking up with my stepsister's friend when my dad knocks on my door. Me and the friend stop, and my dad pops his head in and asks if I'm going anywhere tomorrow. I reply no, and then he leaves. The next day I asked him what that was all about, and he replies, "Well, I heard what was going on, and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't your stepsister." Ex-girlfriend when I was young had a clever little trick for stealth nookie. She had a pair of tights with the crotch ripped out. She wore them under a skirt when I came for a visit. She brought her blanket down to the basement, then put a movie on and covered us up. Then she reached back, fished my shrinky-dink Uno reverse out of my pants, and guided it home while we were supposedly innocently snuggling on the couch and watching Willow. She even pre-stashed a cleanup towel under the couch cushions before I arrived. Her mom came down the stairs many times to check on us. "You kids okay? Need anything?" And there I was, balls deep in sweet, slippery, tingling ecstasy, my heart pounding as I tried to look calm and cool. Girlfriend, who'd been softly moaning and grinding herself only a few moments before, was cool as a cucumber. "No thanks, Mom, we're good." And she actually squeezed on me a few times while talking to her. Pretty sure she got off on the danger somehow. If her mom ever told us to get up right now and come with her, we'd be so busted. But it never happened. This feels about as real as most Dear Penthouse stories, the only difference being that Reddit is the new forum for new fiction writers. But props to this writer for this thing that never happened. It was probably an amazing narrative to never experience, and they deserve our appreciation for getting to experience this non-story secondhand. I'm personally grateful to have never witnessed this non-truthful account. Also, most girls' tights are already revealing. The idea of a girl making secret nookie tights is just plain ludicrous. I was on top of my girlfriend at the time, doing the deed. Her mom props the door open. Not knowing what to do, I just froze. Her mother decided to calmly walk over to me and rest her hand on my bare shoulder. I stayed frozen, as if she was an effing T-Rex. All she said was, "You better be wearing a condom," walked out and shut the door. I died that day. I was a housekeeper in a hotel, walked in on a few people. I always knocked and called out first, but I think some people just like getting caught. You did not knock and call out. You said the word housekeeping in bad English. They said go away, and you walked in anyway. Don't try commenting on here like we haven't met several times. The Los Angeles Police Department hasn't broken up half as many escort meetings as you have. High school girlfriend giving me head in my truck in her parents' driveway. She didn't like me finishing in her mouth, so I discreetly look around and open the door and finish in the driveway. The house across the street was having their roof replaced. Whole crew of roofers just saw me nut in the driveway. I was staying at my girlfriend's parents' house, who were out of town. We get blasted at the bar, catch a ride home, and go to her parents' room to sleep. Obviously, sleep turned into playtime. Being drunk, we did not clean our mess up, we just passed out. The next morning, her mom comes home early and walks into the room. She walked into both of us naked on her bed with several used condoms on the floor. I just stared at her like, there's literally nothing I can say that would be okay. And she just goes, "Oh, don't worry, sweetie. I told her you all could use our beds." She walks into the bathroom, grabs something, leaves, and says, "Have fun." I had never been more confused in my life. Was seeing a woman a couple of years ago who was recently divorced with teenage kids. Went to her house one evening after her daughter left for some sort of practice. Started getting frisky on the couch, and we were going full throttle when her 17-year-old daughter walked through the front door announcing practice was canceled. She wouldn't look me in the eye for quite some time. It must be really hard for this guy to have to stand his teenage stepdaughter walking into the room. As we all know, nothing has ever stood in the way of a man finishing more than high school volleyball shorts. The fact that he was able to even look stepmom in the eye afterward is a testament to how truly dedicated this man is to real love. I was boning my housemate's older sister. She was on top when one of the guys who was over to refinish the bathroom opened the door to ask where the water meter was. I installed the lock after that. Not exactly while doing it, but I was 16 and my girlfriend was 15. On my way to her house to lose my virginity while her parents were gone, she sneaks me in the garage and tells me to wait a minute and sneak into her room. So I count a 60 step into her house and run directly into her 13-year-old snitch of a brother. She plays it off as I came to borrow something, shoves a CD in my hand, and I leave. 5 minutes later, she brings me from the garage to the bedroom. I get her shirt and bra off for the first time, and her mom calls and says she'll be home early in 5 minutes. I have never booked it so fast or been blue-balled so bad. I ended up having to wait like 2 more weeks. The brother is definitely a massive dukehead. This is a fun story because it secretly doubles as a mystery. There's actually no reason to assume the brother called their mom. It's entirely possible the mom came home early because she simply came home early. What do you think? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Went to my bedroom to grab something in the middle of the night. My sister and her boyfriend were visiting for the holidays, and I saw them pass out midway through, both naked on my bed. The next morning, he puked in my garbage can, but at least he washed it out. In my teens, my grandparents had a hot tub that was inside an enclosed sunroom. The door from their bedroom opened right next to where it was situated. I'm balls deep in the girlfriend and working on her right boobaloo-balooby. The door about 2 feet away opens, and I make eye contact with Grandpa just as I'm licking my girlfriend's nipple. He coughs and says, "Oh, excuse me," and closes the door. Grandpa was chill AF. Ex-fiance and I on her bed midday. She's wearing this skimpy outfit that leaves nothing to the imagination. I'm fully clothed, going down on her, when her sister walks and goes, "Jesus, oh my God, shoot, I'm sorry," while frantically closing the door. We laughed. Well, I did. Girlfriend and I went parking next to a lake in the middle of nowhere in the family car. We had been there a lot, and there was seldom ever anyone around. Anyway, in the back seat, doing what teenagers on a Saturday afternoon do, there's a knock on the window. There are 2 police officers standing right outside the window. Girlfriend starts bullying, and we scramble to put our clothes back on. Thankfully, the police waited patiently. They asked for ID and where we lived. Apparently, they were looking for a runaway, which is what brought them out there. Cops see my ID and say, "Are you Mr. Weak Sauce's son by any chance?" Oh, God. My dad was an EMT and a firefighter, so he knew a lot of the area police officers. My dad never brought it up, though. Found out later that he knew about it, but just thought it was funny. Wasn't our first or last time we got caught, but it certainly was the scariest. While I'll believe that the cops called you Mr. Weak Sauce, the rest of the story is verified nonsense. Cops don't look for runaways by knocking on random windows, and if the common hookup point was known by the police, it wouldn't be a common hookup point. The only way this story happens is if both of the protagonists are borderline brain dead. In any case, you have no idea how much editing went into this story. I'd literally never say this in any other circumstance, but your EMT father should have raised an English major. My mom walked into my room on the exact moment I was taking the girl's bra off and asked if we were hungry. It was hilarious. "No thanks, I'm about to eat out." Wife and I forgot to lock the doors, and our, at the time, 4-year-old daughter walked in on us. We hid as quickly as we could, and were successful at hiding what was going on. The next morning at breakfast, my daughter asks me if we thought she was a ghost, and that's why we were hiding under the blankets. Edit. Thanks for sharing your funny stories too. They've been hilarious to go through and read. And for those who've asked, yes, I told her we thought she was a ghost, and we didn't know it was her until she said, "Mommy, Daddy." She laughed at that and thought it was silly. We thought she was a ghost because Daddy always says ghosts aren't real. My high school girlfriend was giving me my first bejesus. We were in my room, and she was laying down and wanted me to straddle her face while she did the dead. The door was next to the headboard, which I was facing. My mom walks in to see if we want dinner, and, well, she saw everything. Dong in mouth, me on top of this poor girl. She slammed the door and didn't let us back in my room forever. See, if I ever catch one of my kids doing it with their significant other, I would just sit both of them down and give them the longest, most boring educational lesson ever, so they can be mortified, but educated. Here's the thing. I understand this commenter meant to say they were doing the deed, but some typos need to be left alone, because the fact is, 2 teenagers boning is actually kind of boring. But a high school girl doing the dead? That gets my attention. In fact, I look down on this commenter for not following that idea through to its logical conclusion. I don't need yet another story about a teenager getting laid unsuccessfully. I need a story about a girl whose parents walk in while she's treating zombies to the time of their afterlife. Sorry if the rest of this video plays out a little slow. I need to type with one hand for a bit. In my uni halls, walked into a mate's room to see if he was joining us for beers. I open the door, asking the question, look up to find him stark naked, laptop on legs, headphones on, meat in hand. Silence between the two of us. It was like I hit pause for a few seconds. Nodded and left him to it. He came for beers too. He came for beers. I walked in on my elder sister and her boyfriend going at it hard when I was 8 or 9, I think. We'd come home early from a family birthday, and she was not happy I came bursting into her room to say hello. Edit. Since people keep asking, yes, people private message me stuff. Yes, they do respond seriously. My sister once walked in on me saying that I had to hang up my washing as it had just been washed. I had just finished and had some ejaculate on my hands, which I was in the process of cleaning. I was under covers, so thankfully she didn't see me naked. Upon noticing what was on my hand, she said with a horrified look on her face, "What's that on your hand?" The only excuse I could think of was that I'd sneezed and some snot landed on my hand. Didn't walk in on him, my roommate just started doing it with a girl while I was in the room. He thought I was sleeping, but still. And all I really remember is seeing his bum and them grunting. Then I fell back asleep. Then there, woke up on the floor beside the bed, half asleep, hear the girl say, "Oh, but sudden interaction is right there." They looked over and decided I must still be out of it, heard the grunts begin and began to fear I'd be there a while. Lasted 20, 30 seconds tops, feigned waking up and left. Well, that's just embarrassing for everyone involved. Everyone who goes to college experiences this at least once. You're all crammed in together, so it's inevitable that someone's going to hook up right next to you at some point. But when it only lasts 20 seconds, that's shameful. I can only hope he's learned since then. That guy's in my prayers. Please like and subscribe if you've made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of this video and have a wonderful day. Back in freshman year at college, my roommate and I arranged for me to sleep in another room while his girlfriend visited one weekend. Her first night there, we all go to a party and get demonstrably drunk. In my inebriated state, I forgot my promise and went to sleep in my bed. I woke up to our bunk beds shaking. After the shaking stopped, I waited 10 minutes and tried to leave the room as quietly as possible. My roommate and I never spoke of it, but we both knew what had transpired. Back in college, when I was visiting my then boyfriend, now husband, at his fraternity house, we were getting down with the get-down when we were suddenly showered with drywall and insulation and greeted by 2 chubby legs protruding from the ceiling. Turns out some of the brothers got drunk and thought it would be a good idea to explore the attic. The rest of the brothers stormed into the room to see if their fallen comrade was okay. So there I was, naked, covered in fiberglass insulation, putting on an unintended show for some of the guys who would later be in my wedding party. Girlfriend and I were doing it on her mom and stepdad's bed. I hear him open the front door, and there's not much I can do at this point. So I get off the bed and squat down and start petting his dog that was watching us like a creep. He walks in the room and sees me petting his dog in my underwear, while my naked girlfriend is still on the bed. I actually thought at the time that I was being inconspicuous. I wasn't. I bet he was confused as F. Like, you guys are effing? What did you do to the dog? We were getting our walls painted back when I was around 14 years old. 2 rooms closed out. There were 3 painters, 2 men, and a woman. Mom asked me to give the painters some coffee and snacks. I enter the room to see one of the guys going hard on the lady, like Chewbacca style. The other guy was painting like his life depended on it. I was never the same since. The youngster in me obviously knew what was going on, but was too embarrassed to tell Mom. Just went to my room and fapped my brains out. Edit. Virgin gold. Thanks for throwing the gold, stranger. I dedicate this star to the bobbing butt of the brown, hairy painter and the unusually growly paintress. Your unholy act made me lose my virginity today. If you're new to Reddit, it's important to note that a gold award means a free week on the premium server. This guy now gets to share this story with people who are basically paying to hear it. And all I can wonder is what exactly Chewbacca style means. Is it a sound the guy was making? Is it a sound she was making? I'm not here to brag about how many adult videos I've seen, but I've seen a couple, and this is new to me. Was the guy banging her while embroiled in a really heated game of chess? This question needs answers, and I won't rest until I've found them. When I was in the army living in the barracks, I walked in on my roommate being ridden by one of the barracks', shall I say, frequent visitors. I said, "Oh, sorry, I'll come back later." And he said, "Come on in, she doesn't mind, she can do both of us." And she said, "Yeah, I can do both of you, I don't mind." Not really my scene, so I left, and he ended up in the middle of a localized epidemic of pubic lice. This is one of those RPG decisions matter moments. I was young and stoned with my then girlfriend. My mom walks into the room whilst I'm riding my girlfriend like a Scottish jockey. I was super embarrassed. And then she said, "Don't worry, it's natural. Where do you think you came from?" Then proceeded to try and hug me. 1 out of 10, would not recommend. Mom, no, get out. Mom, no, why? Yes, I love you too. Now please go. This story is fascinating for all the wrong reasons. Do Scottish jockeys ride differently than other jockeys? I'm only familiar with National Velvet. That's the movie where a 20-something Mickey Rooney rides a 12-year-old Elizabeth Taylor, but that feels like it might be something else entirely. I was doing this chick in her apartment when the landlord opened her apartment door without knocking first, and as soon as he opened the door slightly, she screamed, "I'm busy," while riding on top. I never once stopped doing my thing at all. Side note, the landlord never saw me at all, since the kitchen counter would have obstructed his view of me whilst we were doing it on the living room floor. All he could have seen was her butt bouncing on my dong and my feet at the most. When the landlord opened her apartment door, that's illegal as F. I was doing the dirty with my high school girlfriend at the time. Her parents were strict, so we took my car behind the golf course near her house. She was facing back, I was facing forward. She stops and was like, "The police are here." I turned around and, sure enough, a cop's lights were flashing. I hopped into the driver's seat and pulled up my pants, while my girlfriend was trying to get her pants on in the back. The cop taps on the window and says, "What are you doing?" My immediate response was, just having some fun." He took my ID and asked my story to make sure nothing sketchy was going on. Ultimately, he handed back my ID and said, "You guys have to find a better place. It's the middle of the day." And that's how I lost my virginity. I was with my high school girlfriend in my room around dinner time, and she had said she wanted to try tying my hands behind my back while she, polished the shoe. I agreed for 2 reasons. 1, if this was an attempt at rendering me the defenseless in order to murder me, I was pretty sure I could still take her with my legs. And 2, this was a free pass to have to not do any work. Win-win. That is, until she starts going at it, and my dad walks in, presumably to ask us what we wanted for dinner. Takes one look at her, me, immediately closes the door, and has not said a word about it since. This happened about 5 or 6 years ago. Still nothing. He's a fun guy who likes to poke fun, so I'm just waiting for the day he finally gets to make his joke about it. I hate to admit it, but I actually don't know what this commenter means by polishing the shoe. I have ideas, sure, and maybe they're right, but I've been steadily losing sleep over this for days now. It's literally the only thing that consumes me. If he means mouth stuff, how did shoe polish get involved? Wouldn't that be kind of messy? And wouldn't the result look at least a little like blackface, which is frowned upon these days? I must have this wrong. He must mean something else. I've read so many stories throughout my career. Please don't let this be the one that breaks me. The only time I've walked in on anything, but it's a doozy. I went to tell my brother that a classmate of ours had passed away. I knocked on his door and received no answer. Not unusual since he's a heavy sleeper, but I decided I ought to go ahead and wake him up to tell him. He wasn't sleeping. He was jacking off to hentai with his headphones on. I managed to leave without him noticing, since his back was to me, but I still saw way more than I ever needed to. Now, I can't remember our dead classmate without thinking about my brother jacking it to hentai. When I was a teen, my girlfriend at the time's mom walked in while I was under the covers going down on her. Not knowing what to do or say, I just stayed there, hiding, until she finished her conversation with her daughter, hoping I wouldn't be noticed. However, in the panic, I failed to realize my feet had been sticking out the end of the bed the whole time. Needless to say, I was mortified and could hardly face my girlfriend's parents afterwards. Although in the end, she was pretty alright about it and let me off pretty easy, only making a few jokes before conveniently forgetting what had even happened. I would have had to say, "Oh, hey." We've been through a couple of decently sized stories, so it's obligatory that I write commentary on this one. But to be honest, I'm still stuck on that last story bringing up dead classmates out of nowhere. Is that guy okay? Is that a normal thing to bring up during a nookie story? I don't feel like it is. Yeah, it's funny this guy's feet were sticking out of the covers or whatever, but seriously, someone needs to get that last guy some help. Not during the act, but after doing it, while still naked. We were in my room with the door shut. She was in the bed, and I was on my chair in front of my keyboard and computer. I started playing Build Me Up Buttercup and singing it to her. Well, my roommate heard this, and being that it's the best sing-along song ever, he came up to my door singing and knocked to see if he could come in and sing with me. I said, "Do not come in," but he only heard, "Come in." So my roommate walked in on me, naked on my chair, playing piano, and my girlfriend, naked on the bed. The worst part about it was that he didn't recognize the situation and stayed in there for a solid minute, confused as to why we told him to come in when we were naked. I was dating a woman with a young daughter. Early one morning, we'd been woken up at dawn by the sun and were going at it, safe in the knowledge that the little mite was asleep. But no, without warning, she ran into the room. At the time, I was on top, luckily with a sheet over us. So the little girl ran over, jumped on my back, and shouted, "Let's play horsey." So there I am, buried up to the maker's plate in her mom, with her on top going, "Giddy up." I'm thinking that if I move a muscle, I'm probably committing a serious offense. Luckily for all involved, the effect of that thought was immediate, and I shrank away and out, letting Mom scuttle out and find some clothes. A brief game of horsey, and the princess escaped entirely untraumatized. Until she has a horrible realization later in life. I feel like I'm going to jail for even reading this story, so let's just talk about the fact that Build Me Up Buttercup has not been a decent sing-along song since the 1990s. It's fine if you enjoy it, everyone's allowed to be wrong from time to time, and I guess everyone's allowed to inadvertently traumatize at least one child, as long as they don't make a habit out of it. I still feel like I need a shower after reading this. But don't forget to join us in the next video, where Reddit finally breaks me completely. It's bound to happen one of these days. I'm just patiently waiting. Please leave your stories in the comments. I'd love to make a video of them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.